An important week for the Philadelphia 76ers that got off a little bit earlier with some unexpected news on Sunday. And of course, a busy week of basketball with 2 sets of back-to-backs for your basketball team. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers pregame show presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app using code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365 alongside Derek Bodner, Kyle Newbeck. I'm Devon Givens, Bree producing all of you in the chat. And we have a ton of things to get to from the arena and the actual basketball team. They played a basketball game yesterday. I'm not sure if you all noticed, even though I know you were in there for the pregame and the postgame with Kyle and Derek, doing a fantastic job as always. The Sixers blew another game where they had an opportunity to win. Sorry to make you all revisit that once again.
You had to do it.
My bad,
you
man.
Had to
My
say
bad.
Something.
I apologize. But as you said yesterday, both of you still, with all that is going on, go Birds. And that kind of eases some of the concern with a lot of things. But we have a ton to get to. And we will start with some of the latest from the arena discussion. For a lot of people, I don't know how you missed it yesterday with the change.
Oh, because you were paying attention to the good team in Philadelphia would be how you missed.
Well, at least the information dropping early in the mid part of the morning, going into the early part of the afternoon before kickoff at 4:30 for the Eagles, that the Center City location that we spent a lot of breath and words and information reading that the guys have certainly done in getting prepared and up to date on everything that involves the Center City Arena project, that is no longer, as they have now come to an agreement with both Comcast and the Philadelphia Flyers to put together a new arena to stay at the sports complex in South Philadelphia. So things got underway yesterday, and it's been very active since then. It's pretty much the number one story outside of the Eagles winning their playoff game. It's the number one story, of course, in the area. And we want to share some of the things from yesterday, some things that Kyle was able to at City Hall for the press conference a little bit earlier today. Thoughts from Derek. I'll give mine since I wasn't here yesterday, and we'll discuss it all here with you today. We'll talk about the team a little bit later and their schedule beginning tomorrow with the Oklahoma City Thunder. But
honestly, Devon, since Kyle and I were gracious enough to let you go to the Eagles game,
I just talked for 60 straight minutes.
See you, man. See you.
Well, that's what happens. That's what happens when you try to make a point, Derek. You break the set and the microphone.
So now I do have to talk.
Nobody went deaf
because
with Derek destroying our set.
Mic check 1, 2.
because Derek dropped the microphone. And
I literally dropped the mic.
Ears just got blown out by whatever happened there. So,
I'm good.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so.
You start.
Rundown. Let's do rundown. And some of this, for those of you who were in the pregame show yesterday, this will be repeating some information, but there is some not necessarily new stuff, but things that were clarified today. So no more Market East Arena. There will be an arena in South Philly, the exact location of which has not been stated or determined, but will be somewhere in that greater complex in South Philadelphia. Now, here's the thing that I brought up. I reported yesterday that there would be a, quote, revitalization project at Market East that is part of this agreement. It's between Comcast and the Sixers. And they were asked a bit about what that form will look like. And they had absolutely nothing to share today, which I hammered this a little bit on the postgame show last night. I am very skeptical that anything is going to happen at Market East, not because they don't necessarily want to do something, not because I think this is I do think there's a level of cynicism, but I don't think it's an ultra cynical thing. But if you just look at the incentives and, the motivation that specifically the Sixers have to do anything Derek, can you stop staring at the microphone?
I'm just making sure everything's okay.
Oh my
That's
God.
all.
Anyway. They don't have the same level of motivation to try to just jam anything through at Market East as they did when they were going to build an arena there. That is just basic logic. That's a basic fact. And so if they run into pushback from communities, from Philadelphia as a whole, from politicians, there is no real reason for Joshua Harris and the rest of the Sixers ownership to just go to City Hall over and over again. Like, no, we really need to get something done there. So the Market East part of this, I am very skeptical of. I'll believe it when I see it. This will be a true 50-50 partnership, which was what I was told yesterday, but they got into some more specifics both in the presser and in the release that they sent out this morning. So something that is interesting is that the board will be a 50-50 split, but the Sixers, or HBSE, actually have the chair role on that committee. So what that says to me, my impression from the people I've talked to, is that if there is a tiebreaker, that the Sixers ownership basically gets the controlling vote, right? That's how a chair typically, that position typically works. So that's an interesting piece of all this. Everyone heard about the WNBA component of this yesterday and today, that they are allegedly going to team up to try to bring a team here to Philadelphia, which is good. The more interesting thing is that Comcast is, now this isn't final yet, but Comcast is going to become a minority partner in the 76ers organization again. So it's,
what's old is new again.
I do wonder,
just crazy,
if over the long term, that is the exit door for the Sixers, right? Or the current Sixers ownership,
who, again, to remind you, bought the team from
Comcast.
Yeah.
So it sets up for this long-term thing where Comcast comes on as the minority partner, minority owner, however you want to put it. They build and own this arena together as full partners. And then they just eventually, whenever Josh Harris decides he wants out, whenever Sixers ownership decides our asset has appreciated in value enough to let this thing go, it sets up an easy on-ramp for Comcast to just buy the majority share and become majority owners. Now, that's a lot of speculation. That's not reporting, but that's something that we could be looking at down the line. So brass tacks, team is staying in South Philly, 50-50 split with the Flyers. So all the games will be in this new arena for both teams. WNBA team, if one comes here, will be there as well. We'll see what they do with Wells Fargo Center. It's not, that part is not clear yet long term, right? Will they keep it for concerts and other events and maybe like some minor league teams, right? Like the Phantoms used to play here and now they're out in, was it Lehigh Valley at this point, right?
Let Nova use it.
Yeah. So we shall see. I would assume Nova and other teams like that would want to use a new arena.
I would agree.
One of the other things that caught my ear at the very end of the presser, the mayor was asked about funding and, you know, public funding and subsidies. She highlighted the fact that the Market East project was getting no public funding or subsidies. Now, some people would argue there's a little bit of, finagling there, where there's tax money coming from the pilot program and whatnot. But when she had a chance to say there will be no public funding or subsidies, she merely said that previous agreement is something that I want you to look to as what this might look like. Or it was very gobbledygook type language, right? Like you could easily get out of it. You could say eventually down the road, you come to an agreement, they're not getting public funding. You could also spin it as, well, we never said firmly and completely that you can't get any public subsidies. And so if I am a Philadelphia resident, and I am, but I know many of you are as well, that's the thing you need to hold the Sixers and Comcast to. Do not take a cent of public money, of taxpayer dollars. There are much more important things than basketball and hockey arenas for the money to go to. So there's the preamble.
Really, it sounds like everything about this, you've got to hold everyone to their word, because nothing is set in, even the WNBA team, Mayor Parker went out of her way to say, like, look, we have not been granted a WNBA team.
But it's
we
not.
We want one.
Yeah.
We are committing to trying to pursue one. There's not one definitely coming. Everyone can back out, it seems like, of a lot of things here. And like we talked about in yesterday's show, you know, it is on them to actually do something now with Market East. You've got to hold them to that. It's on them to actually make that sports complex something that is more than just a parking lot with a bar, and something that people actually want to go to and that enhances the experience. it is on them for pretty much everything, because right now it is all just a lot of talk and like handshakes. And, even what Kyle was talking about with, you can look to the previous agreement as sort of like what we're intending. They have to renegotiate everything. They have to start,
is not the actual deal.
From the CBA to everything, they've now got to renegotiate and get that going forward. So everything can change. It means we get to have probably another 10 to 15 freaking shows about it over the course of the next 12 months. But yeah, it is. My concern really boils down to, and it's part concern about like, well, now what do you do with Market East? Because I do think you have to do something there. It's a lot of concern of also just Comcast and all the various parties that have been promising us stuff in that sports complex. Well, now we've just got to trust you more, and you haven't exactly been the most, trustworthy partner in our fan experience. So great.
So the Market East part, when we were talking about us all in favor of having it in Center City, is because, again, just trying to rebuild of what it was in the past, not exactly as the past, but just making sure that there's a lot of foot traffic, there's a lot of jobs opportunities down there, where you have so much going on, where it's lively again. It's not just this ghost town that Market Street has become. It's just a ghost town. They tried it with the fashion district. That has not worked. Some of the other things that are down there simply has not worked. So that's why, one, it was because they were staying in Philadelphia and they were not moving to Camden or elsewhere. Two is because you want to rebuild what was going on Market Street and give it some life. And three, because the 76ers also, and I think we all talked about this, wanted to get from underneath the grips of Comcast and the Flyers, because they were third fiddle. They did not get the same type of respect they felt they were deserving of when it came to a lot of different things. It's interesting that Kyle brings up the point of the board, where the Sixers might have the defining vote on certain things, because just the smaller things of even schedules gets in the way of the 76ers when it comes to the Flyers, with them being in the same building, the tenants in the same building. Flyers get first dibs. So the Market East part, that's one. Number two, when it comes to partnering back up with Comcast, again, that was a real big sticking point for me yesterday when we started to get this information, was because, again, just getting away from both Comcast and the Flyers. They wanted their own building. They wanted to be able to do their own thing. They wanted to be able to function as an organization with their own building, where they did not have to curry favor to a partner in Comcast or, again, a Flyers organization that just takes away from what they could do.
When you talked about Comcast as a partner, you pointed to me, and the Flyers as a partner. So that means you hate me more, because nobody likes Comcast.
Well, I do like you, though.
You said it, not Devon or I.
So that was interesting to me, because as we discussed it so much and we said so many things to all of you back to us, they just simply wanted to get away from Comcast. And when Kyle would go off on Comcast, it was for good reason, because of them and how they would operate things. So this was very puzzling from the start of yesterday, getting the information, the fact that they're going to be teaming up with them again to now stay in South Philly. And to be very clear, whenever we talked about it, we were in favor of the Center City part because of having their building, staying in Philadelphia, and again, bringing some life to Center City and Market Street. Not that we didn't like the sports complex, because we talked about how much we enjoyed the sports complex, how unique the sports complex is in this country, that not many other cities have it operated like this, and we are one of a kind in that way. So if they were going to figure it out, but they still needed their own building. So for them to come back and now team up with the Flyers, I'm a little disappointed in the fact that that's going to happen. Look, they're going to stay there. It's going to be great. It's still going to be a unique experience down there. But to team up with them once again, a little disappointed, just again from the things that I know. The guys know. Not my money. That's their money. They do what they do. Okay. Then you go to the experience surrounding the sports complex. They have been saying for over 10 years that they're going to build up that area. And they have not. They have put Live Casino and they have put Xfinity Live. That's it. It's a parking lot, as Kyle called it yesterday. It's a in and out experience, as Derek and Kyle talked about yesterday on the pregame show. And that's it. You can hang in the parking lot if you want and talk about the great victory that you saw. You can
for Eagles games, it's
for
great.
Eagles games, yes.
For Sixers games in the
not
winter,
so much.
where you're going
not so
inside,
much.
no.
You can do that, But they've been talking about doing this kind of like that LA Live experience out there in Los Angeles and what they've done. And they have not done a thing. There's been ample time to build up that area, and they have done nothing to put anything else down there to build up that area. So as we talk about belief and trust and knowing that they're saying all this stuff, bringing in Adam Silver to talk about the WNBA team, and they are partnering with other people. Wanda Sykes is at the press conference and saying all these things.
I was cracking.
You gotta
I
show
love
me,
Wanda,
man.
I heard just like, she's like, hey, you're the
here.
WNBA lady.
That's right. Yeah, I'm here. So you have to show me. So when you get this new building done, if they are to do this, you got to show me that you're going to put the other things down there that are going to, once again, bring some more life, as we talked about Market Street. How are you going to bring more life to what's going on down there at the sports complex? Lastly, when they discussed having this arena yesterday, my first belief was, again, not partnering with Comcast or Flyers. Where's this place going to be? I want to know where, and you said you were down there today. You still have nothing as to where this might be. I wanted to know where it was going to be. But now you're going to put this new building down there, still have no idea where it's going to be. Now they're going to be partnering with the Flyers. Where's that going to go? Is it going to go to the Naval Yard? Is it going to go over to JFK? Is it going to be part of the parking lot that is the center right now? Where are they going to put it? There's space, but you got to put that there. Then the other stuff that's going to make this other entertainment experience for everyone down there, that I want to know where. And when you have these press conferences and you have all this information, we knew where it was going to be on Market Street. Where is it going to be now at the sports complex? If you had this pivot that you did and you had this discussion about putting it there, there's no way they did not discuss of where the possible locations are going to be down there to put this new arena. So those are a few of my thoughts from the Market Street part, the teaming up with Comcast, Spectacor, the WNBA team. We've all discussed that. And wake me up when they actually do it, because we've all said they should be in this WNBA team should have been in the mix when Juju Watkins was already ready to be coming out of USC. And they have not done that. Maybe even Caitlin Clark, but they haven't even done that and building that up. So as this goes along, yes, I'm tired of it, just like all of you are tired of it. But now there are so many more things that we need answers to as this continues to go along over the coming years. Also, the last one for me too, that it could possibly moved up from 31. It doesn't have to be 31 anymore. There's a possibility that this could be done maybe a little bit sooner than 31. Very curious to see how all of that happens. So I was surprised to find out all of this yesterday. And when I went to the game, I'm walking. I was telling Derek and Bree and Vince earlier, Kyle, before you got here, and of course I won't say who it was, but I'm walking in, and I'm walking into the game, the interest that I'm going into, and I see somebody from the Sixers over here, and I said, "Yo," and
what's up with this arena?
So he or she is like this. So I already knew what they were doing. They were on the phone talking about this arena, so we dap each other up. I was like, wanted to reach out to a lot of people to find out what was going on. And for some reason, I knew you weren't going to get back to me. So I left you alone today. And for good reason, because I'd imagine that person was on the phone all day, even going into an Eagles game, trying to enjoy the Eagles. They have to do their job when it comes to this arena piece. So this is going to be one that we're not talking about for the very last time. As Derek said, we'll probably have 15 more shows on this show about the Sixers arena, what it looks like, the Flyers piece of it, some more news that'll tick one of us off that happens with this whole thing. So
just to be clear, because we are going to have to operate under the gaze of Comcast forever now. The reason I always hammer them is specifically because outcomes like this always happen with them, because they are essentially the legal mafia in Philadelphia. We went through a multi-year, multi-million-dollar process that was voted on by city council that went through all the channels. And then they just decided like, okay, now we'll get serious. And now something's going to happen. And it was preordained because it's Comcast and it's Philadelphia. Oh. And that is a bigger problem, not just in Philadelphia, but that's a discussion for a not basketball podcast.
Not only are they the local mafia, but they own NBC Universal. NBC Universal is paying $2.5 billion per year to broadcast NBA games.
Yeah.
They're also the national legal mafia.
And I noted yesterday when Derek and I talked about this, my understanding of Adam Silver's initial involvement was like, hey, Comcast just gave us a lot of money. You don't have a good relationship with Comcast. That isn't good. Now, that doesn't mean that Adam Silver was like, you need to build an arena with them, right? But
we all know when Adam Silver gives Josh Harris advice, it always turns out well.
Yeah. I'm going to switch.
That is a Hinky Colangelo reference.
The second I can switch my cable provider, I'm doing it. Unfortunately, Legalized Mob has the exclusivity rights where I live currently.
I also found it fun when...
I was going to say, because of all those pro-consumer options you have.
I also found it fun today when the mayor was trying to point out Josh Harris and David Blitzer, and she said the HSB, and I thought that was really funny. She was trying to find it, she couldn't find it, so she went with the HSB instead of HB.
Listen, we make lots of stupid speaking mistakes on this show, so I can hardly.
No, it was funny.
On the mayor for
funny.
that. No.
Yeah.
It was funny though when she was pointing out the people that were here. She's like, "I think David Blitzer is here somewhere," and he's like
right
two people down next to her.
Over.
All right, let's take a break. We come back. We'll keep this going. We'll talk about the basketball team too, because the important week also includes them on the basketball floor in the building that they currently share with the Flyers. And we'll talk about them when we get back right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast presented by Bet365. And I have to tell you about, as we saw yesterday, games going on. Big win for the Birds here at home. And I hope you took advantage of the Bet365 marketplace and making sure that you placed your wagers there, because if you did, I'm sure you had an easy experience on the Bet365 app and figuring out how to navigate, place your wagers, and hopefully win at the end of the day. If you had Jahan Dotson scoring the very first touchdown, I'm sure those odds were very large on Bet365. Bet365 has pioneered live in-game betting, and he offers the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. And when we talk about the basketball games for the local pro team, the early payout offer is something that you can also take advantage of in college hoops too. With the Bet365 early payout offer, you are a winner if your team goes up by 20 points with an instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections marked as winners. And I hope that is not the case when OKC comes to town on Tuesday to face Philadelphia, and you don't bet on OKC. You bet the other way for your team to win. And NBA tip-off Tuesday is tomorrow as well. We'll tell you a little bit more about that tomorrow, getting ready for the game, but it's also a great thing to do there on Bet365. Football early payout offers as well. If your team goes up by 17 points, not all that likely in the playoffs, but you never know, especially if your team gets rolling overall. Here's what we have going on right now. Some breaking news from Bet365. New customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you bet $5. Sign up, use the code PHLY365. Deposit $10 and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. And whatever the moment is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
Also want to tell you about TrueMark Financial. If you're like me, you can spend a tiny bit of money at this time of year, and that credit card balance can weigh you down. How about this? What if you could pay it off faster and with zero interest until 2026? It's true, because TrueMark Financial is offering zero interest on balance transfers for 12 months, so all your payments can go toward reducing your balance, not just covering your interest. Here's the play. Transfer your existing balance from one institution to a TrueMark Financial Visa credit card and take advantage of this amazing offer. But hurry, because you have to apply by February 28th, 2025. Whether you're interested in earning rewards, cashback, or simply prefer a low rate for everyday purchases, with TrueMark Financial, you can choose the credit card that best fits your financial needs. Visit TrueMark.com/compare for full details and to apply today. TrueMark Financial, federally insured by the NCUA, equal opportunity lender. Terms and conditions apply. All loans subject to approval. 3% balance transfer fees apply. Standard rates apply after the promotional rate.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers show, the podcast here on presented by Bet365, where we had Bet and Bree for the show yesterday in my absence, and Bet and Bree was getting after Tyrese Maxey, Paolo Banchero, all of that. You know, make sure you whenever I'm not here, Bet and Bree will have you covered. Because Kyle and Derek said they don't want to be wrong if they put something in. And
It's about journalistic ethics, you know. I don't get involved.
Absolutely. So, just any more things for you, Derek, as far as something coming out today of what they said, which wasn't a lot, but
No, it wasn't a lot.
Just anything else that stood out to you coming out of
No,
the
it's
conversation today?
really put up or shut up time. Like at this point, you've made some lofty promises. We'll see whether or not of those pan out. I'm certainly interested in the WNBA team if they can get that through the finish line. There is a lot that has to go into that, but no, I mean it's we'll see. I'm still just kind of in shock if I'm being completely honest. I did not think this was on the table.
No.
And it came out of nowhere.
And the fact that they also said that they started this conversation back in early December, where the things kind of changed and they started to get together to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Was also interesting, especially where we are January 13th here. That's like a month ago.
Yeah.
Full
Yeah,
month.
no, I mean, certainly, like Comcast has always had the big hammer in terms of because they are the rights holders. And you wonder if maybe the Sixers, because they got everything approved, had just enough leverage that Comcast was willing to budge just a tiny bit where the Sixers would finally agree to it. But who knows? I'm sure there will be some reporting on that down the line. But yeah, it was interesting.
I'm going to throw in a couple of things here from notes that I took listening to the presser and talking to people. So to really hammer the Comcast thing, when Brian Roberts was speaking today, said that the Sixers, or not the Sixers, that Comcast tried again harder after the arena deal goes through, and said that the NBA rights deal was, and this is a direct quote, fortuitous, which... Listen, I'm not going to make any accusations that I can't prove definitively. I know who I'm up against after watching this happen and watching this whole process play out. I'm going to let you put the pieces together on that one and let you think about whether that seems right. The other thing, and this is more, I'm going to kill the Sixers for this. Josh Harris got asked why they changed their mind on Market East. And the first thing that he said was, we didn't really change our mind. Well, then why is the arena being built in South Philly, you bozo? Like, what a stupid thing to say, man. We didn't really change our mind. We were committed to Market East, but our North Star was doing right by Philly. Like,
yeah, okay.
Like,
and they kept hammering that. Doing it for Philly, doing it for Philly.
It's such
it was like,
mealy-mouthed nonsense.
Yeah.
That, like, just say you got a better deal. Like that's you don't have to lie to people. You don't have to dress it up and do this whole dog and pony show and act like, oh my God, Comcast and their benevolence is going to allow us to do right by Philadelphia.
Because guess what?
It's such a crock.
Market Street is also
get it out
Philadelphia.
Of my face.
So what do you mean? What are we talking about
true
here?
story.
Yeah. So, and was there anything that I didn't really hear much of anything that came out of the SEPTA piece of it, which we talked so much about when it was on Market Street? Didn't hear much about that, but we already know how that goes. Getting from wherever you are to get to South Philly to the complex and get to a game. So not much of that came up in this piece, but I can't wait to find out if there was anything there in regards to what maybe didn't happen with the Center City piece of it.
Yeah. No, it's a fair question because we talked about this a little bit yesterday. One of the things that I was actually excited about with the Market East is like, all right, well, now they're like forced to upgrade SEPTA. Like you have to upgrade SEPTA. You have to upgrade the region.
Good luck with that now.
Well, there's not the motivation to do so now. There's not the reward to do so now. But maybe they were concerned that wouldn't actually happen. It could be a logistical nightmare. It's a fair question, but like I said, there wasn't a whole lot of chat about that.
So I remember when we went on the tour, when they took us on that tour, it was cold as hell that day too.
It was.
It was
we were
really
nice
cold.
and bundled up.
Yeah, we were. And then we go into the gallery. I'm not calling it the fashion district. You go into the gallery and you go down, and they took us to the spot where the sub was, and they were showing us exactly how it would. You would come up the stairs and kind of like Madison Square Garden and showing it exactly how it would look getting in and out of the building. And all right, cool, I can see it. And that was part of my reason of, as Derek was pointing out, coming from out of the city, being able to navigate through all of that stuff pretty easily to make it work for the people coming from the suburban areas or the regional rails and getting to the games. That was also, again, an interesting piece to me. We've all done it where we've been to the other cities and we've seen how that has worked, which is why we were also in favor of
It's
all of that
convenient
stuff.
enough at MSG that I can cover a game and get a train home to 30th Street at midnight because it's right there.
Right there. Yep. And look, just to be transparent, when I was there for, what was the home opener for the Knicks? Yeah, it was the home opener for the Knicks. And Kale's taking a long time because he's got to do his media stuff and taking forever. Got to look, as his dad says, got to look pretty and get dressed and all that stuff. And we're like, yo, we still do have to get to the train by like 11:45 to get back and drive. But it's convenient because we don't have to worry about a taxi or Uber to get to wherever to get on the train. And that was kind of that experience that you would think of for what would have potentially been there for Center City and on Market Street. So still a little disappointed that it's not there, and more disappointed that they're partnering back up with the Comcast Flyers piece of it in the end.
I'm most disappointed in the fact that people from the suburbs get to continue to pretend that getting on SEPTA is like Mad Max and you're some guy with a billy club is going to come and beat you over the head and
waving around a spiked.
Anyway, let's talk about something else that we hate. The current Philadelphia 76ers basketball team.
Yes,
and the way they're
playing. Look at the Tyrese Maxey hit the like button on the screen. You see that? That's how we look at the Sixers. Look, that's how we look at them, man. Just come on. So that was bad.
Maybe we need one where he's not complaining to the refs for the like button.
But he is pointing at the like
he's pointing at the like button, but it is the official.
I love the graphic.
Although the like button is on the other side of the
I hate the complaining from Tyrese. I love the graphic.
All right, so with it, the 76ers have a busy week this week. So they start off on Tuesday with the Oklahoma City Thunder, front end of a back-to-back. They follow it up with the New York Knicks on Wednesday, both at home. They are then on Saturday, front end of a back-to-back in Indianapolis to take on the Pacers. And then on Sunday, screwing with us once again when the Eagles are playing in a big-time divisional playoff game.
These guys just have everything NFL, they can do to make me mad. Make all of us mad. I shouldn't say
to
just
be fair, they have a back-to-back. So Saturday or Sunday, it was going to screw us either way.
Man, that's going to be awful because Sunday, they're going to be playing. We're going to have to pay attention. And
Post-game.
Joel and Paul are going to be out or some nonsense like that. It's going to be the worst game we've ever seen.
So that's with the Bucks on Sunday.
While they lose to Doc
Dowden,
Rivers.
Come on down,
After
baby.
the Eagles advance to the NFC Championship game, we'll be watching the Bucks and then watching the 76ers there. So, Derek, 4 tough games. I mean, the Pacers are tough.
The easiest game on that schedule is a team that just won 12 out of 15 and beat the Cavaliers.
Yes. So they have a tough week starting with the Pacers, starting with the Oklahoma City Thunder, tomorrow. This is Kyle, as we were talking about this pregame, a kind of put up or shut up defining week for the Sixers, especially where they are right now with their record sitting at 15-22 now.
Yep.
It's kind of defining, man.
Ugh, what a disgusting record.
It's brutal. It's brutal no matter what, but you're coming into the week. You don't know about Joel Embiid. They have not released an injury report yet today. There was no practice today. He was obviously questionable yesterday, didn't play. So we don't know whether or not he's going to be able to play at the start or really at any point during this 4-game stretch. We'll find out. And then you look, there's 2 sets of back-to-backs. Theoretically, the plan coming into the season was that Joel wouldn't play in the back-to-backs. Nick has sort of walked that back a little bit, said he might, but again, he's missed the last 4 games. Nobody knows. And you've got OKC, who's won 17 out of 18, second-ranked defense in the league. And that's without Caruso and Chet, by the way. The Knicks, who have the number 2 ranked offense and have just came off of a 9-game winning streak. Indy, who has won 12 out of 15, including game over the Cavs. And Milwaukee, who's 18-9 since their 2-8 start. Both of those last 2 are on the road. And again, 2 sets of back-to-backs. So this is brutal, especially when you have like 5 or 6 legitimate NBA players that you can pencil in that will actually play in these games. And Maxey's playing 40 minutes per night. Joel, you don't know about. Paul George is 34. And they're all going to be required to play huge, huge minutes against really good teams that are going to stress them. If they win more than one of these games, I will be pretty stunned.
I think you actually undersold how bad this is. The Oklahoma City Thunder are the best defense in the league by about 4 points per 100 possessions. The gap between...
And again, that's without two of their better defensive players playing for most of the year.
The gap between the Thunder and the Magic, and we saw the Magic yesterday, even in their banged up form, right? They are a tough, athletic, defensive-minded team. The gap between the Thunder and the Magic on defense is basically as big as the gap between the Magic and the Warriors and Celtics, and they're at 7th or 8th in the league. That is a monumental difference on defense. And I hammered this on postgame last night as Derek and I basically did a eulogy for the season to some extent. One of the reasons that this week sucks so badly for the Sixers is that Joel Embiid is, if he even plays, there is no soft runway for him. There is no, okay, he gets a tune-up game. He works through some kinks. They get the offense rolling. He gets his wind back. He gets his legs back. You have to bring him back against a team that is basically built in a lab to harass him and make him feel discomfort and force the ball out of his hands so that people like Kelly Oubre, Caleb Martin, Ricky Council, and on down the line take open threes and more than likely miss them. That is not a good way to live. It's not a good situation for Joel to come back to. But okay, let's say he doesn't play back-to-backs, right? So they decide, well, he's still not ready for the OKC game. We're going to bring him back against the Knicks. Do I need to remind anyone what he looked like after a long layoff against the Knicks this year? Terrible, right? And the Knicks, in a completely different way, are also a team that can stress Joel out a lot and complicate the problems that he has. Because with Cat there, and I know Joel's been successful against Cat individually in the past, but Cat is having an incredible season in his first year in New York. And with that roster, they spread it out and can play 5 out. They can, guys can switch hunt. Joel is going to have to defend the perimeter in some meaningful way. Really, the only guy that he's able to sag off on to some extent is Josh Hart, who, by the way, is so confident against the Sixers because he is basically playing in a home arena after college and because all the Knicks fans coming here. Number 2, he basically won them the playoff series because he shot the lights out. And it's just one of those where some guys get confident against certain franchises because of past success, and it's a snowball rolling down a hill. So maybe you use Joel as the switch guy there, as the guarding a small there and game the matchup so he's not having to get out to the perimeter as much. But that doesn't feel like a suitable plan. So either way, if you bring him back in one of those games, not exactly set up for Joel to dominate and play well and look good. And so I see the chat today, and I see, people send us emails and texts and are in our diehard Discord who are just like, the season's over, or why bother? Like, don't discuss these games. And we're not going to ignore the team. But I understand where you're coming from, because I don't know how people look at 15 and 22. Look at a stretch until the trade deadline where there are no gimme games. Maybe there's 1 or 2 where it's like, yeah, if they're healthy, they should beat that team. But everybody else, it's like they're either considerably better than you, or healthier than you, or just more trustworthy of a team than you. That's probably the entire league, if we're being honest. And you could get to February 6th or whatever that date is for the deadline and maybe win 2 more games. That is a real thing that could happen. And the Sixers will continue to tell you, we're not tanking. We're going for it. We just need to get everybody healthy, blah, blah, blah. But you are going to run out of time, runway, and frankly, available players at some time in the near future.
All right, let's talk about Joel and back-to-backs a little bit more when we get back right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast, presented by Bet365. Got to tell you about my good people at Rothman Orthopedics. Yes.
Yeah, baby.
Derek tried to tell me I'm not banged up enough. I need to go back to Rothman Orthopedics and tweak something so I can get looked at. So, all right, my back hurts. My back is aching. I need to go to Rothman Orthopedics. Maybe you are too. It's cold outside. Maybe a previous injury that you had, something, you just kind of flares up and you said, you know what, I need to go get it checked out. And Rothman Orthopedics is the place for you. If your back's out of whack, mine was bothering me a little bit yesterday, but I was all good as I went to watch the football game when even though it was cold. Rothman's got you at Rothman Orthopedics. Practicing, they specialize in care and has been their passion for over 50 years. Their mission, high quality, compassionate, and affordable care rooted in research leading to new treatments and better outcomes. And each Rothman doc is laser focused on their specialty, which is hip, knee, spine, you name it. They have you covered for whatever body part that is bothering you. Rothman is proudly representing since 1970, and their physicians have remained committed to research, innovation, and minimally invasive procedures to get you back to what you specialize in. They are Rothman Orthopedics, and they specialize in you. And if you need something pretty quick, you don't want to run and wait for an ER kind of thing, you can go to Rothman, where they proudly serves the dozens of communities across Pennsylvania and New Jersey with 30-plus convenient offices, walk-in centers, and urgent cares as well. So whether Derek or Kyle and I cross each other up here on Pop-A-Shot in the office, Bree breaks our ankles, we know
or
exactly
Devon
where
breaks
to go.
the machine.
Or I break the
Can
machine.
they fix machines? That would be great.
Because
if we get Rothman to fix our machine.
shooting the basketball.
Rothman Pop-A-Shot, doc.
Rothman Orthopedics. They even have Pop-A-Shot covered. Specialize in orthopedics and you. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and make an appointment today.
They certainly can do sizzle reels for Pop-A-Shot. I know that.
Yes, they
I
can.
also have an intrusive
Hey, that
thought
was
I
awesome.
want to get to.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We all need a
Intrusive
sizzle
thought
reel.
after this one. But first, I have to tell you guys about our wonderful friends and partners at Shady Rays. Yes, that's right. I know I always say get ready for the season ahead. That's because you always need quality polarized shades that are built to last. Guess who has those? Shady Rays. They're an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Whether you're wearing them here for a rant on the set, whether you want to look good at the beach, whether you're out working on your house, on your roof. You guys have heard my funny home maintenance stories on my roof. Wasn't funny for me, but it's, what's that old saying? It's comedy is tragedy happening to other people. Whatever the case may be, Shady Rays always has your back. And if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it. They have the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair backed by lost or broken replacements. And you can always return them worry-free within 30 days or exchange them for a new pair. If you got them, you don't like them as much as you thought, you can get a pair that better suits you. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays giving out the best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHLY for 35% off of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. My intrusive thought that I had when you said you're running through the list of things that Rothman works on, and you said spine. You ever seen the Dave Chappelle movie Half Baked?
100%.
I was thinking of Sir Smoke a lot saying, "Doctor said I need a backiotomy."
Yes.
It's like, because I've seen that movie 800 times and that just lives rent free in my brain. So I'll have to ask our good friends at Rothman if they do backiotomies.
Yes. Yeah, we have to get
I would
them.
guess no.
We get them on camera and get them on record and saying the backiotomies. And of course, one of the best ones is you, and you. You're cool. And there's that. Classic movie, Half Baked. Classic movie. All right, let's get to, before we get back to the Joel Embiid back-to-back, Spiral Out checks in on a super chat. And Spiral Out says, PHLY rules, Sixers drool. You guys are always pros. We all deserve better after the last decade. Spiral Out, we appreciate the super chat.
Thank you so much for the kind words and the super chat. And
you
yes,
do deserve
we
better.
definitely all
Yes.
deserve better. And I mostly mean you guys, because at the end of the day, we're still up here having fun, talking about
I
basketball.
wouldn't mind a more interesting team to talk
Yeah,
about.
like
They were
Derek and
supposed to
I.
be.
Yeah.
Derek and I at these games afterward will, when they have bad losses like that Pelicans one, we'll have a little complaint session where it's like, I can't believe these clowns lost that game and
And
blah,
look,
blah, blah.
as much as you might think snark and anger are our natural habitats, I would prefer to watch good basketball. I know
course.
it might not seem like it, but I enjoy good basketball so much more than what we've gotten to watch for most of the year. And I was so excited to come into this season because I thought we would finally have a competent team with a real chance to win, and they're 15-22.
15-22. So to get to the back-to-back part, when we never expected it to be a 15-22, at worst, maybe a 22-15. Reverse it a little bit there, Derek. But when they put together this plan that, Kyle, you didn't like from the start, Derek, you didn't like it either. But they put this plan together for Joel to not play in these back-to-backs. That was a different part of the season when they started, where they thought that there would be a completely different squad with a completely different record where they could pick and choose those games that he does and does not play in. And if I'm not mistaken, both of these back-to-backs, starting with tomorrow in New York, both nationally televised games. So we know that they frown upon that. The NBA does when your star doesn't play. Is he legitimately injured? Yes. But the questions that you both talked about on the pregame show yesterday about him missing a few games, now popping up as questionable on the injury report, then not playing against Orlando. All right, he might be okay enough to play. They are not in a position anymore to pick and choose if he's able to go. They are no longer in a position to pick and choose, or he is no longer enough to pick and choose of when he should and should not play. Should he stretch it a little bit? Should they stretch it a little bit and see if he can give it a go on both nights?
I mean, I would say maybe try it on one of these back-to-backs. You know, maybe you just sit him against the Thunder because it's the easiest one to justify to the league. Just because he's had this injury, he remains injured. And maybe you play the next 3. I wouldn't be against testing how his knee reacts. Because really, the knee, you're not worried about the foot sprain so much. Test how his knee reacts on a back-to-back. Yeah, no, give me 3 out of 4 and I'll be happy.
By the way, you mentioned the knee. Nurse got asked about when was it? Friday? Yeah, Friday Pelicans game, pregame. We're going over what happened with the foot, and he mentioned that it had been aggravated. And there was a follow-up, I believe, from Keith Pompey about are there any knee issues right now? And Nick's like, no, everything is good with his knee right now. And I had the thought in my head. I was like, well, I hope his knee is okay. He's not playing basketball. If his knee's not good, well, he's not playing. He's screwed, and so are they. So to answer Devon's question to
and
Derek,
real fast, Tuesday is just local television, ESPN on Wednesday for the Knicks.
Josh Harris just probably saved like $500 million. Yeah. Like however much money was saved on not building this arena. I don't. If you have to pay some fines, the bigger concern, and I keep saying this, like I don't think there are any withhold Joel games at this point. I just don't. Like
things have changed.
I think based on this season, how can you convince yourself that like a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, that there is runway for this team to do much of anything? For this team to build any semblance of a coherent team and roster with Joel Embiid. Like I think in terms of being respectful of the player and their body and all that stuff, like I get that. But if you're trying to spin this as like, well, we have to keep our mind on the long term too. What long term do you see? The guy has finished 10 games. We're about halfway through a season. There is no team right now that I can see that's coming in to be like, hey, we're backing up the Brinks truck of picks and young players and whatnot to trade for this guy either. If you're trying to protect him to do that, and I don't think that's what they're doing. I just think we are so far past the point of being able to say, take the cautious approach, right? Like, yeah, maybe see what he can do in 3 of these games. He's got to play. There's just no way around it. If you cannot sit here and say, we're all in for this year, we're not throwing in the towel, and then just treat this guy as a part-time player. They can't beat anybody, or at least they can't be counted on to beat anybody if he doesn't play. They just lost to an Orlando team that played Trevelyan Queen major minutes last night, a guy who they cut, who was here for a cup of coffee, and they're like, he's not good enough. Listen, and I'm not trying to disparage these guys who actually played well and made impact plays on a team that beat them. But I was texting with I won't name the reporter who followed up on the arena thing and the Sixers' latest stretch of games, saying, boy, it's really been interesting over there. And I said, yeah. They made Jose Alvarado look like Magic Johnson on Friday night. He's firing no-look skip passes to the corner. He's hitting behind-the-head drop-offs to Daniel Tice, who is completely washed. Like, That's the type of player that is kicking the crap out of them right now. And listen, credit to those guys, but all the shame to the current Sixers. So you can't sell this dream. It's the reason I hammer Josh Harris for his nonsense answer on the arena is for the same reason that I'm killing these guys for how they're messaging this and how they're treating Joel. I don't like when people piss on fans and then tell them that it's raining, right? And that's exactly what's happening here. Hey, we're a serious team. We want to be a contender. We're doing what's best for the long term. Okay, well, you're 15-22. And all the teams that you think you're better than, you are well below them in the standings. You are not going to win a playoff series without home court advantage. Like, who's the team in the top 6 right now that if I said playoffs start tomorrow, you would pick them to beat right now?
Let me look and see if the
you're not picking them to beat Cleveland. You're not picking them to beat Boston. You're not picking them to beat New York. You're not picking them to beat Milwaukee. Probably not picking them to beat Indiana.
Or Orlando.
Yeah. And I'm not picking them to beat Orlando. I mean, maybe you pick them to beat Orlando just because Franz is out for another however much time. And you would say with Joel and Orlando banged up. But like, who would you expect them to beat? Honestly.
No one.
No one.
No one.
So you can't sit here on January 13th. There's basically 3 months almost exactly left in the year and say, we have to wait and see if he can handle this. It's now. It's impossible.
You have to do it now. So 13 games. We updated it before the start of January when we would talk about how many games left that they needed to handle their business coming off that 9-3 December. What they needed to do, what was that, like 19 games or something that we were talking about? It's now down to 13 games before the last game is played on February 5th, the day before the trade deadline, which is February 6th, for them to do whatever it is that Daryl Morey in the front office decide they're going to do. So again, as Vegas Dev says there in the chat, guys, relax. They're still ramping up. Well, there's not a lot of time
get a
left
ramp
for that.
for this set.
Yes.
And then when Derek wants to knock over the mic stand again, I'll just hit it with the ramp, and that's how we'll use it. I'm sick of that word.
13 games left before the trade deadline. You got to play him now. You got to find out at some point. You have to play him now. Nationally televised game or not, tough opponent or not. Aren't you supposed to be good? If you're still walking around thinking that you are good and things are just going to be fixed, especially when he gets back out there, whatever trade you try to make, they're going to be good. Okay, well, you've seen it already. You have enough of a sample size of these games of 15-22 with 37 games to know that you are not good enough to win without him on the floor. See if he can play through it, see what happens, and go from there. Yes, we complain about the back-to-backs this month, 5 sets of them, 2 of them this week. You need to find out if you can play. 5 sets of back-to-backs.
They are so cooked, man.
Yeah. So there's that. You need to find out if he can play or not. And I know Rich is probably like, blasphemy back at home. This is ridiculous. Stop talking about it. You got to find out. You're 15-22. And Kyle, when you said, look at the standings, I go, and I'm like, Miami's tied with Milwaukee for that 6th spot. Detroit is
by the way, Miami,
a game
who
back
sent
of
Jimmy
6.
Butler home, just won 3 games in a row.
Yes. The Pistons.
They played bad teams. 2 of them.
12 is laughing at us right now.
Come on, dog.
Come on.
If Miami can, Jimmy Butler is taking a match and lighting Miami's house on fire, and they can beat a team by 20 points with him sitting at Big Face Coffee filming Instagram reels. Like, what are we talking about here? It's disgraceful what this season has turned into.
And it really is. When you're bringing that up, winning 3 games without Jimmy, I blame so much of this on the Sixers and Morey, even more so than Embiid. Because it's one thing, like, you should be competent without him on the floor. We should not be sitting here saying he's got to play every game between now and the deadline, because you should be able to just, I'm not saying even go 500, but if they had like 3 or 4 more wins right now and we're hovering right at 500 as a team, you'd be like, all right, I can back that cautious approach with Embiid more. I'm not super thrilled that we are sitting here debating how much of a risk you should take with his health, but you are like, you needed to bank some wins because the next month is brutal. Like, we just talked about this opening stretch. It is an absolute gauntlet. And
Derek, at some point, if it's too far gone, once we get to February and they do whatever at the trade deadline, they're probably going to shut him down anyway.
Yeah.
So you might as well see what you can do right now and see if he can play through.
Yeah,
We've already seen where we thought the second offense was Tyrese Maxey and Paul George, and that would work. That hasn't worked. So
no, that hasn't worked.
It hasn't worked.
No, I mean, look, I don't want to just evaluate it. Like, if it's going to put undue stress on his knee long term, you don't need to do that. But just like,
but he's going to be shut down at some point anyway.
If they keep losing, sure.
Yes, that's what. Well, they've shown us that they can keep losing.
But
they certainly can do that.
They can certainly lose.
There's one thing I'm confident they can do. It's lose without Joel.
Anyway,
and there's still
the
only,
point I was trying to get at,
2 games back of the 10th spot. As we keep saying all this,
yeah, it's not going to be the case in a month.
It may not. No, you're right. You're right.
They should not be at a point where Justin freaking Edwards
he was
is
in
their
the
6th best player
last night.
and a closing lineup when Paul George fouls out.
That
That's
was amazing.
Organizational failure.
Amazing. I was like, wait a minute. I know I've been watching the Eagles because I'm here, but I'm checking in with you guys, and I'm like, wait a minute. Is that Justin Edwards on there in this final run here? And I look and see, like, let me see how many points does he have? What do he have? 7, I think he had. And that's where the Sixers are, as Marcus Blackstock says here in the super chat, just joining us. Time travels different in the 76ers organization. So Justin Anderson is who he is now, and not Justin Edwards playing key minutes and closing role for the 76ers against the Orlando
Justin Anderson
Magic.
Might be able to get minutes on this team right now.
Well, there's an open roster spot if you want to bring him
There
in.
is.
And that was Joel's buddy. So if Reggie Jackson's qualified to be on this team by being Paul George's friend, then
and again,
trust the friendship or whatever.
Right.
If Josh Harris just saved $500 million or $800 million on the arena, how about you spend the tax money and fill that 15th round? Maybe even just a 10-day if you don't want to commit to a rest of the season. Maybe, who knows, even the two-way slot you have open.
two-way.
Give me a live body who, when you're dressing 8 or 9 guys, just give me a live body.
Or you could even, as an act of
Whoa.
kindness, you could sign a Sixers fan and let them be a Sixers player for a day in that two-way slot.
Devon can
you
go.
could get that done today.
He can break something else, and he can go to Rothman.
They already have a partnership with them too, so let's have at it. So all good vibes here in 76ers land. An important week for them. 4 games against some tough opponents. OKC, New York, Indiana, and Milwaukee. That's just this week, and 2 sets of back-to-backs for the 76ers as they get ready to take on these tough opponents. Got to tell you, make sure you go like and subscribe as always, but sign up as a diehard member to become a diehard member there, and allphly.com. You get the written articles from Derek and Kyle after these losses. Not a lot of wins, so after these losses, you get the everyday newsletter from Rich Hoffman. Everything's going on right now with the Eagles moving on to the divisional round. Zach, Fran, Bo, Les Bowen, all the written content there. Charlie for the Flyers. We got you covered there. Make sure you sign up, become a diehard member, allphly.com. Go get yourself a Scully because it's going to be cold on Sunday at the stadium.
2 Americas, Scully versus Beanie.
Scully versus Beanie, it is here on the show. And with all of that, make sure you do get that and get your free t-shirt as well. And we got to jump in, take advantage of the offer right now at a great price as well. It's time for the world famous roll call to close out the show.
Thank you for everybody
Our
for
only show this week at 3:00.
Listen to me yell for no real reason about Big Face Coffee. Thank you to Mom's grandchildren for hanging out with us. What's up, Mom? Hello to Tom Jackson, to my girl Winona, to Mount C10, to Eugene Ross, to Money Marr, to Spiral Out, to who the hell is Derek Bodner? Never heard of that guy. Jeannie, thank you for hanging out. JS, thank you for hanging out. Spiral Out. X-Man.
What up, X?
Brian C. Darkness is in the building. Charlie Marfray is in the building. Jaden hanging out. What's up, Jaden? Haven't come around in a while, so have to stop by the show at some point.
Go back to school.
DJ, aka Mr. Sandman,
Bring
Keith
me a dream.
B, also in the building, not to be confused with Keith
dream
Sweat.
of like a 10-game winning streak for the
Kyle
Sixers?
Wright, Brian Knight, Jess with the Purple Heart.
Hey, Jess.
Mary Overfield. Thank you to each and every one of you. I see a Richard N. Hopefully not the ghost of Richard Nixon hanging out with us, but you never know. It could be the head from Futurama. On your way out, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. Hit that thumbs up to help us in the algorithm, but also to say thank you to super producer Bree. We'll be back for pregame and postgame tomorrow. Goodbye.
See ya.
all city like the mayor.